Can UConn get their 10th win, most in FBS history? I'll preview. This is Locked On UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday and welcome back to another episode of Locked On UConn. I am Matt Schonvisky, a two-time graduate, 10-year credentialed media member, and host of the only daily UConn sports podcast, Locked On UConn. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the world. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and thank you for making this your first listen each and every single day. On today's show, UConn is back in the Fenway Bowl Saturday to play Army. I'll have a full preview. Then, who's in, who's out? The Two Deep was finally released, and we finally know who will be on the field come game day. And finally, keys to the game. I'll highlight the three areas for the Huskies to come out on top and make history. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. So this last 4 weeks, it's been tumultuous. It's been crazy. It's been ever-changing. A lot has transpired. Head coach Jim Mora departed for Colorado State, and a lot of things transpired since then. Interim head coach Gordon Samus, offensive coordinator, promoted, finally spoke to the media on Friday to preview the game, flanked by two players, Damon Brinson and Lou Hansen. Army was on the other side to also preview the game, led by Coach Munkin. But on the UConn side, they finally talked about, from a head coach's perspective, what's been happening since Mora left. And Samus reiterated, hey, it hasn't been too much. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed on the practice field. Nothing changed on offense. Nothing changed on defense. Nothing changed on special teams. We're doing the same thing we did when Coach Moore was here. And the way we've operated in the past allowed this transition to be as smooth as possible. Now, there are things that have come into play. Coaches finding other jobs. Coach Samus has been down at TCU during these last 4 weeks. Did some interviews. Accepted the position. Matt Brock, defensive coordinator. Same thing at Mississippi State. Other coaches will be going elsewhere. Wide receiver coach Kashif Moore will be following Moore to Colorado State, as will Price Tracy, named offensive coordinator at Colorado State. So we've seen things play out on the coaching side. On the player side, we know who's entering the portal or plans to enter the portal because the portal does not open until next week, January 2nd. There's been some impacts to who will be on the field. We'll get to that in the second segment. But the biggest thing I was worried about or I was concerned about was the mental. Will this team be ready? Is this team going to be ready to go? And by all accounts, from what I heard, from what these players said, from what Samus said, they're focused on the task at hand. The mission hasn't changed. They have an opportunity to do something here that's never been done and make history. And that was top of mind. So yes, things have changed. Yes, Moore is not here. But the goal is still the same. And that's all I needed to hear to be confident that this team is focused. This team will be ready on game day. And listen, I think they have a lot to prove. I think there's still doubters out here that is this UConn team for real? This is a group that has not lost a game in regulation. Undefeated in regulation. And I think they want to end this on a very, very high note. They've won 8 of 9. I think they want to make it 9 of 10 and be the first team in program history to get to the double-digit mark at the FBS level. So they talked about how those early season losses helped them focus, helped them stay grounded because of the way they've trained all offseason. Lou Hansen talked about all the work that they put in, and then they found themselves sitting at 1-2 earlier this season with 2 overtime losses. Was it going to be for naught? Or were they going to regroup, continue the mission, continue the task at hand, continue the training that Moore instilled in them, and execute when it mattered? Because that's one key thing that Coach Sam has talked about is we're prepped and for every single situation we will face. We've worked on 2-minute thousands of times. He asked Hansen to speak to that. So when the bullets start flying and real situations take place on game day, Huskies were going to be ready. And they recovered. They won 8 of 9. And now the opportunity sits to be the winningest team in FBS UConn football history. And they're not taking it lightly. So yes, after today, or excuse me, after Saturday, things will change. Things will be different. Coach Candle's coming in, but today's not about Coach Candle and his new staff. Saturday is all about this group. And I think we need to appreciate what Jim Moore did for this program as well. Because this team is not in this position. This program is not in this position without Coach Moore. And the mindset he instilled in this program. Took it from a doormat, potentially the worst in college football, to one that may not lose a game in regulation in 13 games. If 1, 2, or 3 plays changed, UConn could have been in that, potentially in that playoff that we're talking about. Because this team could have been undefeated this year. And I think they want to close this off the right way. 99% of this roster wants to close this thing the right way. We'll talk next segment, like I said, about who's in and who's out. But the biggest thing, again, for me, was mentality and mindset entering the game. And they are not taking this opportunity for granted. They're focused. They're aligned on the task at hand. And I think that's going to prove a long way to how the Huskies perform on Saturday. And defensively, I mentioned the 2 deep is out. We'll talk about that in a sec. I think the approach defensively is going to be different. I noticed on that 2 deep, they're kind of switching the defense to a 3-4, given Army's run-heavy triple option attack. So we'll talk about the individual players that will be in, the rotation, in the next segment. But listen, I think for this defense, I think they are probably going to have a chip on their shoulder. And I think they have an opportunity, especially the style of play that Army has, to be the reason UConn wins the game. Just like they were in the biggest win of the season against Duke. Making the play when it mattered. The strip sack of Mensah. The recovery. And the win. So I know a lot has been said about this defense. I think they have an opportunity to be the reason UConn comes out on top. So on the other side of the break, we will talk about the 2 deep. We know who's in, we know who's out, and we'll talk about it coming up. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds or pregame. UConn, 7.5-point dogs up at Fenway against Army. Is it right? Is it wrong? We'll find out. Vegas usually is correct. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Back in on Locked On UConn, and we're talking too deep for Saturday's bowl game against Army. We finally know who's going to be playing, who's in, who's out. Let's start on offense. Most important position, quarterback. We know Joe Fagnano has opted out. I also think he was given bad advice. I don't think he wanted to. I read the current article that they did with him. It was kind of, well, I guess this is how things are now in college football. I shouldn't play. Well, I think he's listening to the wrong people, to be honest. Joe Fagnano had a spectacular season. I think he could have used one more opportunity. And I think, listen, when talking about Fagnano, I think if I'm an NFL exec and I'm looking at a player who's on the fridge of getting drafted or being an NFL free agent, I'm going to want a guy that steps on the field no matter what. And I think Fagnano listened to his agent, potentially. This is allegedly. Just reading the situation. I think he probably listened to his agent and said, hey, take this time, prep for Senior Bowl, prep for all these other festivities ahead of the NFL draft in April. Don't take a risk of getting injured in the bowl game. But I think if I'm sitting in an NFL executive suite and I'm weighing options of who to take into my roster, 10 times out of 10, I'm taking the guy that's playing no matter what. Whether it's a bowl game, whether it's an exhibition game, whether it's a regular season game, whether it's a preseason game, whether it's practice. I'm taking the guy that wants to be on the field 10 out of 10. So that's just my thoughts on the Fagnano situation. When it comes to the 2 deep, Samus released it. We've got Tucker McDonald or Kason Farrar as your quarterback. I will not be shocked if we see both. Farrar is a freshman from Virginia who can run like the wind. If he's in, you're going to see a lot of QB run. But I think he can also throw the ball a bit. Tucker McDonald, we'll see if he's fully healthy. I know he missed some time for a bit. Maybe this time off in these last 4 weeks have helped him get healthy. But the big thing is Nick Evers is not on the roster, or on the 2 deep at least. So I don't know what was going on there, if he completely opted out, if he's already left the program like Joe Fagnano has. But your quarterback situation is Tucker McDonald or Kason Farrar. A huge change to the lineup is at left tackle. Torian Johnson has played throughout the year. Ben Morosky has said he's entering the portal. He's not on the 2 deep. Maybe banged up. But Torian Johnson will get the start in his hometown. He is from the Boston area. Juergens will be at left guard. Wes Hoa at center. Brady Wayburn at right guard. And Ty Chan, the Notre Dame transfer, will be at right tackle. So that's your starting offensive line. Receivers and running backs, no change. Cam Edwards is playing. Mel Brown is playing. Skylar Bell is playing. Murphy's playing. Porter's playing. Parker, Harper, and Nider are the backups. So your entire receiving core is intact. It seems like your entire running back core is also intact. I assume Victor Rosa will be available. I had not heard otherwise, but Cam Edwards and Mel Brown are both on the 2 deep. And then tight end, no change either. Lewis Hansen and Alex Honig also on the 2 deep. So basically, you're missing your left tackle. You're missing your starting quarterback. But everything else should be good to go. So that's the Huskies offense. On the defensive side, the only piece that I did not see is Malachi McClain at safety. Everyone else is there on the 2 deep. And as I mentioned in the first segment, it seems like defensively the Huskies are changing things. So yes, Army has the triple option attack. Seems like the Huskies, just like they did against Air Force, which I think they played more for a 4-2-5-ish scheme. This one for Army is a 3-4. They list 3 defensive linemen, Smiley, Chout, Trent Jones, and then 4 linebackers, Diamande, Parham, Key, and King. And Taekwon King, I think, might have a chance to make a huge impact in this game. It's his last go-around, his last hurrah. He kind of was the odd man out on this defense this year with the type of scheme that they were playing. I have a feeling that Taekwon King is going to make a tremendous impact on the game on Saturday. Just a prediction. We'll see. One thing to note. So you have Chout as your starting middle inside defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman. Jackson's not there. So I know he said he's Vincent Carroll Jackson. I know he said he's entering the portal. That seems like your only opt-out on defense with Malachi McClain. So a few guys. Left tackle, right tackle, quarterback, interior defensive lineman, safety. But you'll kind of mask the loss of Malachi McClain because you're switching to this 3-4 system anyway. So at corner, your starting corners are Devin Pringle and Cam Chadwick. No surprise there. And Lee Millette, Damon Brunson at the safety level. So defensively, I really like this defense against this option attack. I might get skewered. I might be called crazy, but I think the defense is going to carry the team. I think they have the capability, especially with the style of offense they're playing against, to shut down Army. And I think a lot of people are going to be in for a big welcome surprise with how good this defense is on Saturday. On the specialist side, Chris Freeman is still here. Connor Stutz will be punting. Kick returner Mel Brown. Punt returner Jackson Harper. Interesting thing on the 2 deep. So maybe Victor Rosa isn't going to be on the field. Your backup kick returner is Cam Chadwick. I think that indicates to me that maybe Rosa is no longer here. And that's your 2 deep. So biggest thing that stands out to me. I'm excited to see Kason Farrar. I really am. I heard the radio crew at the start of the year talk about him. Listen, Mike Crispino, he likes to say some things. He did, in front of Mora, compare him to Lamar Jackson. Mora had to say, whoa, wait a second here. He hasn't even played a down in football. But he said, don't let the secret out. And I want to see Farrar be the Ferrari that I know he could be carrying the ball. If we see Tucker McDonald, it's going to be a homecoming for him. He is from that area. He's probably the better passer right now. But again, I haven't seen much of Kason Farrar. I just know he can run like the wind. I'm very excited and anxious to see how he could perform offensively for the Huskies as a leader of the team, if it's him. And if it's Tucker, same thing with him. A lot of unknown on game day. So we'll see how things come together offensively for the Huskies. On the other side, we will talk about keys to the game. There's nothing like college football season, tailgates, packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, and prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets like Saturday's Fenway Bowl between UConn and Army and experiences in just a few taps. The app is incredibly easy to use. Went from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes. I loved being able to view the seat from my to see the view from my seat before buying, so I knew exactly what I was getting. The zone deal stood out. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save even more. Seeing college football tickets starting as low as $25 made it easy to plan a game day trip. Knowing prices includes all fees up front and makes the whole process stress-free. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Back in for the final segment of Friday's Locked On UConn episode, and we are switching gears to keys to the game in Saturday's Fenway Bowl between UConn and Army. I talked in the first segment about mindset. I want to see that continue from the press conference to warm-ups to the sideline to the actual game. I think if UConn shows up, they have the talent advantage over Army. If they stay engaged, stay locked in, stay together as one unit throughout the entire game, I think the Huskies are prepped to come out on top on Saturday's game and accomplish something that this program has never done. So mindset, it was the biggest thing. I was questioning it the entire bowl prep, the entire 4 weeks, especially after Mora departed. But what I saw in that press conference, what Coach Samus said, what the players said, they're locked in. And if things go south early, if there's any surprises, if there's any turnovers, if there's a quick score by Army, how this team recovers and what their mindset is going to be key. Second thing I touched on in the last segment, defense. Defense, and the line of scrimmage battle for the Huskies defensively. I love the approach of pulling off a safety and putting in another linebacker. I think a 3-4 system against a team like Army is something that is going to prove very helpful for this team. The Huskies can take care of things at the line of scrimmage. I know early on in the season there was some concerns about that. Rightfully so, with how they performed against even Central, Syracuse, etc. But they got better and better as the season went along. And I am optimistic about this defense against Army. And Taekwon King came to UConn after leading Temple in tackles, was all AAC as a linebacker at Temple. Came to UConn, didn't complain, but barely saw the field as the season went on. Was more a special teams guy as the season went on. He has an opportunity to showcase his talents in the bowl game. I would not be surprised if he came away with double-digit tackles. I would not be surprised if he came away with an impact play. Maybe a forced fumble, a TFL, a key stop, an interception. It's the type of player he is. He's a do-it-all type of linebacker, in my opinion, based on what I've seen. I know there was certain schemes and more talked about, hey, we're playing all the guys we can. Taekwon King is seeing time on special teams. I don't think he was ever injured throughout the year. I know there was some things written in the media that, hey, Taekwon King is coming back from injury and he's slowly getting back on the field, playing special teams. I don't think that was the case. I think he just was the odd man out in the rotation. I think Mora made a decision that, hey, we're going to go with some other guys right now. But I think Taekwon King can make a tremendous impact with the team, and I think we're going to see that on Saturday. So we talked about mindset as the first key. Second key, defense. Third key, quarterback play. Tucker McDonald, a little bit of an unknown. He's seen a little bit more time, but again, handful of snaps. Nothing really meaningful. Unknown. Kason Farrar, I'm excited about. I think if you see him with the ball in his hands, I think there's going to be a lot of suitors for him if he sees extended time. I would not be shocked if Coach Moore is trying to get him to go with him to Colorado State because I know Moore is very high on him. But he's a Virginia kid. I know Coach Candle's been watching practice. Let's see what transpires in the bowl game. But not to put too much expectations on what you're going to see, but the dude can run. The dude can make plays with the ball in his hands. The thing I need to see is how is he throwing the football? Does he make the right decisions? Where is he in his progression as a college quarterback? His development as a college quarterback? Is he making the right reads? Can he control the line of scrimmage? Can he manage a game? Can he hit the deep ball? Can he squeeze it into tight spaces like he was able to do in high school here at the college level? So we'll see who is going to be the starter. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of Kason Farrar. I have a feeling we're going to see a little bit of Tucker McDonald. The exact amount of reps, the rotation. Are they playing two quarterbacks? Is it just going to be one? We'll find out. But how both of those guys, if they're both on the field, or how one of them, if it's only one, plays, is going to dictate how this offense goes. Yes, they can run the ball. They should be able to run the ball a bit. But they're going to have to utilize Skylar Bell and the rest of the key receivers that they have and the tight ends. Listen, this offense was stacked this year. There's a reason, talent-wise, the reason that they put up so many points, that they had such a prolific passing game. Joe Fagnano was part of it, but you got to have the tools to be able to get open down the field. We saw Moore's first year here. There's zero separation from the receiver core. What Kashif Moore has done with that room, I feel like I need to say it. What Kashif Moore has done with that room completely transformed not only the receiver core, but the entire offense for UConn football over the last 2 years. If you look at who was here prior versus who is here now and who is contributing, it's all since Kashif Moore came in. And it's allowed Joe Fagnano and the offense to have such a productive passing game. Because without those receivers, Fagnano does not have the numbers. And just vice versa. Same thing. Without Joe Fagnano, those receivers don't have the year that they did. But I just wanted to talk about Kashif Moore and his contribution from a coaching standpoint to his alma mater. Because his loss, him going to Colorado State, is a loss. We'll talk more about future, not for today. But those are the three keys: mindset, defense, quarterback play. And listen, ultimately, I talked about it earlier. I think the defense is going to carry the day. They're going to win the day. They're going to dominate the line, and they're going to execute when needed. And I think some of that is going to be because of Taekwon Smith. Some of that will be because of Brian Parham, obviously. Diamande, I think this is a great opportunity for him as well. This type of game, it's going to suit him well. He's a downhill type of linebacker, and he's going to have a big day as well. So I think look for a big day from the linebacker core. Taekwon King, Diamande, Brian Parham. And I think you're going to see the Huskies come out on top. So post-game, we will be on site at Fenway. post game, I will be putting out a recap video, probably Saturday night by the time I get back home. But keep an eye out on that. We will summarize. And with that, thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On UConn. Please hit the like and subscribe button. And for a second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today, hosted by Peter Bukowski, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. And as always, go Huskies!